There was an air of remembrance around Anfield today. 5 years on from Hillsborough, fans of Newcastle United joined their Liverpool friends in paying tribute to the disaster victims. There was no mistaking where Newcastle's guiding lights, Keegan and McDermott, had learnt their trade. Their team assumed a Liverpool look from the 4th minute when Robert Lee scored a smartly taken opener. Newcastle's second, early in the second half, gave a new meaning to the phrase end-to-end football. The best form of defence is attack. Scott Sellers and then Rule Fox were the messengers, carrying the ball swiftly and smoothly from keeper to striker. And when it arrived at Andy Cole's doorstep, the rest is history. His 39th goal of the season, equaling a club record, he'll share with Hughie Gallagher and George Robledo until the next chance comes along. Problems of one kind or another at Coventry. Sheffield Wednesday had a problem with the 25th minute.
Sky Sports, PO Box 6, Isleworth, Middlesex, TW7, 5QQ. The very best of luck to you.
One of the greatest sights in world football will be no more after this soccer weekend. On Saturday, Liverpool play their final game before the Kop, arguably the most famous terrace of them all. The Kop choir is about to be silenced by the bulldozer as the heart of Anfield is redeveloped. But the memories of joy and pain will live on.
If you thought the old line about the most famous terracing in world football was a bit of a cliche, then think again. They even come here from Thailand just to pay their respects to the Kop. Well, quite simply, the Kop has become part of the football culture, not just for its noise, but for its personality, its wit, and its sheer willpower. As Shankly once said, the Kop used to stand there and suck the ball into the goal.
It was unbelievable in there. I'm sure people came, some of them, simply for the experience of being massaged for 3 hours by this enormous creature. It was like an undersea anemone swaying, you know, at 4,000 fathoms. And you could start at one end, and by the end of the game, you could end up at the other side purely as a result of the forces that pushed you around. And as a small person, I mean, to get out of here at the end of a game, I just relaxed and took my feet off the ground. And you would find yourself channeled without your feet touching the floor, all the way down these terrifying steps that were at the back, and home. And by the time you got home, you felt as if you'd actually played, because, you know, for 2 or 3 hours you'd been fighting just to see something of the match, and feeling as if you'd been to hell and back. It was great.
It was great. It was the days during the Shankly era, the 60s and 70s, that saw the Kop in its pomp. 30,000 of them crammed onto one terrace. But its origins and its memories go back even further. Jack Payne, now in his 70s, and Billy O'Donnell in his 80s, remember the days when as lads they used to stand here and shelter under the oilskins of tram drivers, just to try to keep out of the rain.
What about the toilets? I mean, how easy was it to get to a toilet in the middle of a game?
It was very difficult.
The toilets you could get out, but you'd never get back. And most fellas, they get the paper, newspaper, roll it up and throw it in the newspaper. I wish that had been the sun them days.
And perhaps it's the humour for which the Kop will be best remembered. Certainly it's the abiding memory for many of the players.
I was a little bit renowned for getting stuck in and taking no prisoners, and I can remember in the far corner one day somebody threw a pork chop on the pitch. Leave him alone this week, Smithy. It's an easy game, you know, things like that.
One of my times at Ipswich when somebody actually smacked the ball at my private patch, and I turned around and the Kop just started going, "Johnny, what?" in a high-pitched voice, and that was brilliant. Just the split second, the way they did it was tremendous.
There are those who'll tell you, of course, that the Kop now ain't what it used to be, and in some ways they're right. For a start, the capacity is much smaller. But there are those too who say that when they do take away the terracing here, they'll take away the very soul of Liverpool Football Club. It just won't be the same.
It's not really that the Kop is going, it's just that it's going to be unusual to see people sitting down in the Kop where they're usually climbing over each other's head, you know.
There will be a certain piece of magic which will leave the club when the Kop is seated. Only people who have stood on it or played in front of it will ever believe what a fantastic atmosphere they do create.
It's going to be a terrible shame to see this
A lot of people, I think a lot of people are going to cry about it, and I really mean this. People who come here week after week and week after week and have come part of it, you know.
Unquestionably, the memories of the Kop and what it's symbolised over the years are deeply felt here in Liverpool and on both sides of the city, and never more so than in the days after Hillsborough. This week, outside the Shankly gates, the flowers and the scarves were there again to commemorate the 5th anniversary of the disaster. And for some, the historical similarities surrounding the origins of the Kop some 90 years ago and its final few years as a national institution are just too powerful to ignore.
Most people know that the Spion Kop was named after a battle in the Boer War in 1900. But what I think few people recognise is the 3 Lancashire regiments who were fighting there. Many local Liverpudlians died. So there's a sense in which the Kop was named as a tribute to unnecessarily dead local people, as it turned out, because the battle itself was a military cock-up. So there's a sense in which the Kop started as a shrine, and it ended as one, or at least it came very close to its end, because, of course, in the popular mind, it symbolises Hillsborough, the Kop bedecked with scarves and flowers. So it's a journey from shrine to shrine, in a sense, and in between, it became the most famous strip of terracing in the world.
Walk on, with hope in your heart, and you'll never walk alone. You'll never walk
Somehow don't see the football team walking alone into the future. We hope to be at Anfield Saturday lunchtime for what is an unbelievable occasion.
Poignant memories, I think, for just about everybody who ever went there, I think.
Hope you've enjoyed the show. We'll see you again very soon. That's it from this edition of Sky Soccer Weekend. We'll leave you with our unique guide.
Second leg in the San Siro on May the 11th, and Inter set to record Italy's 5th win in the competition in 6 years. Well, the San Siro is renowned for providing a great atmosphere, but no footballing terracing has ever quite captured the knowledge, wit and intensity of feeling of the Liverpool Kop. Today, though, fans will stand and watch a match from the Kop for the last time before the bulldozers move in, and ultimately all seating replaces the terracing. Happily, the memories and the characters, especially since Bill Shankly's era, will live on.
It used to be thought that Welsh international rugby crowds were the most musical and passionate in the world. But I've never seen anything like this Liverpool crowd. On the field here, the gay and inventive ferocity they show is quite stunning. The Duke of Wellington, before the Battle of Waterloo, said of his own troops, "I don't know what they do to the enemy, but by God, they frighten me." And I'm sure some of the players here in this match this afternoon must be feeling the same way.
Great pictures, poignant pictures, and this is the Kop today, waiting for the fans to come through the turnstiles and take their place. Already there, a man who once stood on the Kop as a fan before entertaining it as a player. Phil Thompson, who's talking to John Moss.
Yes, thanks very much, Bob. You are well qualified to talk about what the Kop means to you and other Liverpool supporters. How will you sum up a day like this?
I think just approaching the ground, walking round, I think it's electric, the atmosphere. Getting lumps in my throat, seeing all the kids with scarves and flags and everything. It's what we've all been brought up on. You see, well, as people from all over the country come to Anfield now, but I think for local people to come to support Liverpool, you never really support Liverpool until you've stood on the Kop. And it means so much to everybody to stand there, to cheer. It is a magnificent occasion to be involved with the humour, the laughs, the seriousness of it all.
and to watch Liverpool winning most games.
Now, you've seen the Kop as a fan and as a player, and of course the great European nights, I suppose, will always be top of the list.
Yeah, I think all night games were always special here at Anfield. We had some magnificent occasions, even ones that I didn't play in, even like the Auxerre game. Magnificent, Saint Etienne. I was actually in my hospital bed then, but it's tremendous. There's something about night games here at Anfield which is special. The Kop, it brings out the best in the Kop, I think, the night games.
Now, when you became a Liverpool player, you used to run out at Anfield and always used to wave to your brother on the Kop. I never quite worked out how you knew exactly where he was standing.
I don't think any of the players ever worked it out as well, because I used to come out and the Kop would always shout everybody's name and everything. If they shout my name, well, now and then they shouted it. You give them away, but always save a special one for my brother. I always knew where he stood because as a kid I stood in the same place for many a year, and I used to just look up, pick him out straight away, and I'd give him a special wave. All the other lads would say, how can you do it? Like, there's 20,000 on there, how'd you pick him out? Obviously, you've stood on the Kop, you know your place, and I could pick him out straight away.
What we've also got to do today, Phil, is appreciate why the Kop is being turned into an all-seater stand, and that, of course, goes back to Hillsborough and Lord Justice Taylor.
Yeah, I know there's been a lot of debate on it, and the Liverpool supporters sort of not wanting the Kop seated. I'm one who's gladly seen it seated for the simple reason is what happened to 96 of our supporters, nobody else. I don't want to see another death on any other stadium, never mind Anfield. And I think we, really at Liverpool, I think we should have been the first to have had the Kop seated and show the rest of the country we mean business. Because I don't want to see it, and as long as everything's done, it's priced right, the ground is done in the right manner, the facilities are spot on, I'm well in agreement of it.
Now, in a moment or two, the gates are going to open, the Kop's going to fill for the last time. It seems like a day of celebration today, with the match almost secondary.
I think it is. For the first time, I don't think the result is going to matter. I think it's going to be magnificent. We've seen all the stewards on the Kop, having pictures taken where they've all stood over the years. It's going to be very emotional. I'm going to be emotional with them, and it might even be a few tears later, because obviously we love it. I think it was every fan's right to stand and watch games, but after what's happened, I don't see any reason for it. But we've got great memories, and we'll always remember the Kop, because there's only one Spine Kop, and that's here at Anfield.
Well, thanks very much for that testimony, Phil. I think goalkeepers were always appreciated by Kopites, weren't they? They got a great reception from time to time, and we've got one in the studio there. I'm sure Bob will remember playing in front of the Kop as well.
I think so. We've probably rattled a few past Bob as well. He's probably got a bad back still.
Back to you, Bob.
Never recovered, Phil. Frightening and inspiring in the same instant. That's how I always will remember the Kop, and I've certainly felt the warmth of a Kop reception. All visiting keepers do, as John said, plus a word or two of advice. Well, I've got a latest score for you, in fact. Could just come up. It's in Division 3, and it's Hereford United against Torquay United, and Torquay United are 1-0 up. That's Ensley, Division 3. Right, a nostalgic afternoon in store at Anfield, and elsewhere all sorts of issues could be decided, not least Rangers winning their 6th successive league title if they beat Celtic, and Motherwell lose to Kilmarnock. And Nottingham Forest could return to the Premiership if they win at Peterborough. Reading in Division 2, Wickham in Division 3.
Before it's replaced with seating. Even a 1-0 defeat by Norwich couldn't spoil the atmosphere at Anfield, where 16,000 fans crammed onto the Kop, as they have done for 88 years. Kenny Dalglish was one of the club's heroes to receive a huge cheer, and ex-boss Joe Fagan was accompanied by Jessie Paisley and Nessie Shankly, whose late husband Bill transformed Liverpool's fortunes in the 60s. Pop star Jerry Marsden provided his own fitting finale.
Take care!
Meanwhile, Wimbledon's Dean Holdsworth has helped put Tottenham back in danger of relegation. He scored the first in a 2-1 win that leaves Spurs only a point above the bottom 3. But Matthew Letizia has rekindled Southampton's hopes of avoiding the drop with 2 goals in their win over Aston Villa. Match of the day follows, so if you don't want to know how those results affect the bottom of the table, look away now. Nottingham Forest fans were out in force at Peterborough, celebrating their club's return to the Premiership, just 12 months after being relegated from it. They clinched promotion with a 3-2 away win, Stan Collymore scoring twice. This is first, just before half-time.